We're going to go through a cable Zercher Jefferson scale eccentric. So for this exercise on my cable machine, I've set up with the attachment at the bottom. I'm using a straight bar attachment as well. Now before we begin, the important part with this exercise is that we're focusing just on the eccentric, so the lowering down through spinal flexion. Okay, but I do not want us to focus on bringing ourselves back up concentrically as so. So how this is going to be performed is eccentrically, we'll move off the spine through flexion, but to reset, we're going to bring our spine into extension and then come up to the start. So I'm going to demonstrate this exercise standing, but it's also an exercise you can perform seated. You can change the height at which you set the cable machine, and that will very much change how the cable pulls you as you perform this exercise. So I'm going to run through a couple of reps to demonstrate how I perform the exercise and also some of the things I'm thinking about as I'm going through these movements. So I'll squat down, set myself up with a straight bar in that Zercher position, and then from here, chest up, come to stand. So this is where I'll begin. Feet, any kind of comfortable foot stance. You can bend the knees, have the knees locked out, but then once you begin, you want to try and keep the pelvis still and not come along for the ride with the pelvic tilting. So I begin by segmentally flexing the spine, starting from the neck. And then I work my way down vertebrae by vertebrae. Slowly working my way down the thoracic. Thinking about moving with a slow, controlled pace throughout the movement. Paying attention to how capable I feel as I'm loading the spine eccentrically. Trying not to let the pelvis tilt as I go through the motion. And then when I begin to feel like I'm getting to my end of spinal flexion, what I begin to do is squat down, let the weight re-rack, lift the chest up, extend through the spine, and then deadlift to come back up. And then I'll go into my next rep. Some of the things I begin to think about as I go through the motion is how does the connective tissue, how does the muscles, the joints around the areas I'm segmenting feel? Can I feel a good connection of what's being engaged, what's being lengthened, what's being challenged as I go through the motion? And then I begin to ask myself, how capable are those tissues? How much capacity do I feel they have against the load I'm performing this exercise? Meanwhile, still paying attention to the detail of moving through vertebrae by vertebrae, slow and controlled. And then same, reset as so, move into my next rep. So just to recap, the focus is working with a load that's challenging enough to pull you down eccentrically, and when you get to your end, you're not concentrically trying to bring that weight back up, but you're bailing out of it. So once I re-rack with the weight, I squat down, chest up, deadlift to come back up. In terms of variables, you can play with standing, performing this exercise seated, changing the height of this cable machine, in which will change the pull of force when you perform this exercise as well.